All right. Let's go back to the world of DC real quick and let's talk about Constantine 2. Apparently, Keanu Reeves is unhappy with the action heavy Constantine 2 scripts. This is Mark Julian from a Comic Book Movie. The news of a Constantine sequel began long before the birth of the DCU, but with the rise of the new cinematic universe, many fans assumed the project would be put out to pasture. However, it was confirmed in February of 23 that the project was still moving forward. More recently, a script for the sequel was turned in back in September 24, reportedly developed by Keanu Reeves and director Francis Lawrence. According to the most recent reports, Akiva Goldsman was the last writer to revise the script. Since that update, the project has gone dark, but we now have fresh info from Peter Stormare, who played Lucifer in the original film. Based on what he had to share, it doesn't sound like Constantine 2 is moving forward in a promising direction. Stormare stated, a lot of back and forth because I think Keanu, which I know pretty good, is not so happy with the scripts and usually what comes out of the studios. Because the first one wasn't that successful in the beginning, it became a sleeper and became a cult movie, and now it's one of the biggest cult movies ever. But to do a sequel, the studios want to have, cars flying in the air. They want to have people doing flip-flops and fighting action scenes. He added, and I think Keanu says, I've done John Wick. This movie is spiritual. It's about demons and regular people. I wanted to keep it that way. And we talked about that. I want to do God coming down exactly the same way, but in a black suit and looking more or less like Lucifer from the first one. I'm 12 years older, so it's going to be hard to, completely imitate the first movie. But I think from Keanu, he wants to do a sequel that is very close to the first one. Finally, Stormare noted that he and Keanu Reeves are both adamant about not letting the sequel take on a Marvel-style tone. They're committed to preserving the darker, more grounded atmosphere that defined the original Constantine. I think he wants to do his character again. Constantine is grounded as it was in the first one. It took a long time for you to become a cult movie. It really worked, and it will work on the audience again. You don't have to add a lot of action and shootouts. You have other movies. Don't turn into a big Marvel into us flying around in harnesses all the time and shooting each other up. Stormare's update on the project status is something of a gut punch for those who have been looking forward to the sequel. However, Reeves and Lawrence can find the right scriptwriter to take the project in a new direction. All right, Coy, I am one of those people that got to Constantine late. I got to it as it was already a cult classic type because I didn't know that this was anything to do with DC at all. I just thought it was a random thing and it looked like a horror movie, and I don't do horror, so I just was like, I'm good. I watched it during the pandemic. It is absolutely fantastic. It is incredibly slept on. The only things that I would have changed a little bit is just knowing how much of a womanizer and a drunk that Constantine is. Like, I would say let Keanu keep the character as it is, but like, if you don't want to turn him into a womanizer all of a sudden, I think adding, maybe after all the stuff he went through in the first one, adding that element of him becoming a lush, I don't necessarily hate. So I think you can keep it grounded. Maybe that, like, the dive in is to focus on his struggles with, alcohol abuse or something like that, and let that be kind of, now he's debating his responsibilities versus that going forward. I think that could be really interesting.
I'm always excited to talk about trade coffee. Coffee's not just a drink. Honestly, it's like a ritual. It's a lifeline. It's the bridge between when you're half asleep and you're ready to just conquer the day. I know it is for me. And if it is that essential, why do you want to settle for anything less than extraordinary? That's where trade comes in. I love trade so much. It is part of my routine every morning. It is the #1 U.S. coffee destination. It brings you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, but the quality, though, for me, it's next level. Plus, you are supporting local roasters. It really is a win-win. If you're headed out on summer vacation with Trade subscription flexibility, you can pause it, you can shift delivery when you're away, and resume when you're home, ensuring that you're going to get the coffee. I swear by Trade coffee, guys. You know I do. If you've been watching my show long enough, you know that I can't shut up about Trade coffee. I love them. I love the different qualities. I love the quantity. I love the taste. I love the smell of it. I love Trade coffee. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/Christian. That is a deal. That is drinktrade, TRADE.com/Christian. Get 50% off for your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/Christian.
And that being said, Constantine being one of the most powerful magic users in all of comics, I do think they need to turn it up a little bit. But I agree, let's not turn this into where WandaVision was so great, and then all of a sudden that last episode, okay, here's a real crappy MCU battle to throw, magic fireballs back and forth. But you hearing all of this, man, where's your mind at?
I think it's interesting because, I mean, Constantine is an action-packed story, like Constantine can be, but it's not Constantine physically doing a lot of action. He's manipulating and he's causing things to happen, but that's magic. Like, I don't think Keanu would have to be physically John Wicken, like, I don't think that's necessary. So to me, Constantine is a very heady, introspective, theologically charged, but the visuals are part of the journey. It's very dialogue based too. Like, it doesn't need to be an action movie. It needs to be something that is rooted in intensity, but you can do that with visual effects and with the writing and with the story. Like, the physical actor playing Constantine isn't doing flips like they're talking about. So I think there's a sweet spot. I think you can up the stakes, you can up the action, but it doesn't need to be Constantine upping his physical action. It's also tricky because I love Constantine. He's one of my favorite characters. Hellblazer is one of my favorite comics. And Keanu Reeves is, my God, it's Keanu Reeves, one of my favorite actors. I'm so honored to have done the stuff with him with his comic. I love the dude. But the difference between Keanu Reeves, Constantine, and the comic Constantine is pretty far. So I'd be curious what they'd want to do to bridge that gap, if they'd want to bring it together, or if they'd want to do the Batman thing and have there be a Dark Justice League where there is a comic accurate Constantine and then there's a Keanu Reeves Constantine. Like, I'd be cool with seeing two, like, I'd be cool with calling him Hellblazer, or like having an element of that in a team movie and having that be more of a Matt Ryan or someone like, there's so many like Norman Reedus, gritty, dirty, like somehow still attractive while being grungy types that aren't beautiful, angelic Keanu Reeves that could still have Keanu Reeves as Constantine go on and have the one that's more comic accurate, in which case I'd want that one to stay even more removed and go over there. I think you're muted. Are you muted to me?
I've turned it off so that I could use my. That's my fault. I was using my shaker. I'm drinking a liquid IV now. I was using my shaker and I didn't want to make a whole bunch of noise on the thing. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that I enjoyed what Keanu did for sure, but it definitely is like looking at a Pattinson versus Nolan type Batman where they're both Batman, but they are definitely different flavors. And I will agree that Matt Ryan's and what we've seen in a lot of the animated stuff and whatever, those to me are the more correct, more entertaining, more interesting versions of the character, because it's a little more accurate, because it really is this man who, this weight of responsibility and really knowing how the world works on a mystical and spiritual level. He does some awful stuff, both selfishly and because he has to. And it is to me more interesting to see somebody really fighting their demons while fighting demons.
Right.
And in the first Constantine, it feels more that he's more the conduit in which we solve this case. And it's still interesting. It's still very good. But the same way everybody wants to see more detective Batman out of like Robert Pattinson's version, I would like to see more of the Matt Ryan. This is a damaged man trying to save the world, and not because he necessarily wants to, but something gets pulled out of him to do so. And again, I know there's some of that in the movie, but not to the level of like, you asshat, in the way that we saw Downey Jr. at the beginning, because again, that Tony is very full of himself. He is a drunk at times. He is a womanizer. Like, you know, I'm not saying you have to go whatever, but there's something interesting about this broken person finding themselves that is missing right now from the character, in my opinion. Now, again, I haven't seen this movie since 2020, so maybe I need to revisit it, and there's more of that than I remember. But to my knowledge, I just remember that big divide between what Matt Ryan and what we've seen in animated versions of Constantine and in the books than what we got out of Keanu.
I also think there's an opportunity to bridge the gap because it's been so long. This movie's been 15 years that you could make him much more like the comic by not having it be an action movie. Like, you could have Keanu be more like the comic. But again, if you want to make this a sequel to the first movie, there is an opportunity because the character's so, broad to do two things. So Either way, I agree with these quotes. Either way, I think Peter Stormare's right. I think he's exceptional. I love that role and that performance from Peter Stormare. But I don't want this to feel like a Marvel movie. I want it to feel like a Hellblazer movie.
Yeah, I totally get that. But we want to know what you think in the comments, man. Let us know. Are you worried hearing that Keanu's not happy with it? Do you want to see a different version of Constantine? You want to see Keanu continue to pick it up? You want to see the Batman split? All the stuff we talked about. Let us know in the comments, man.